Hello everyone, and welcome to another bass singer reaction and analysis. As you can see, I've done a bit of rebranding. There was always a small percentage of viewers who were thrown off or confused by the title Bass Singer Reacts, when really what I'm doing is a full musical breakdown of all these songs. So instead of being a 5-minute video for a 3-minute song, like a lot of reactions, it'll be more like a 25-minute or 30-minute video. Very similar to Elisabeth on The Charismatic Voice. She's kind of the model for this that I'm following, and she does such an excellent job. As you can see, I'm sporting my May the Bass Be With You sweatshirt. This is part of the official The Bass Gang merchandise line, which I'll put a link for in the description. Very exciting about this merch. We have some super amazing projects coming up for our May the Bass Be With You Volume 2 that'll drop in May. Some incredible collaborators and some cool song choices that I shan't reveal any more about, but it's very exciting stuff. Guys, please like this video. Please subscribe to my channel to help it grow. And if you're really enjoying what I'm doing, if you're getting value out of my breakdowns musically, if you're learning more, if I'm enhancing your listening experience, please consider donating to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Now today we're checking out Tim Storms, who has the Guinness Book of World Records for the lowest note ever sung by a person, which is a G-7. Now there's a lot to be said and debated on that front, just given it's like basically a full piano off the bottom of a piano. You know, it's like eight or 9 octaves lower than the low notes you hear Jeff singing. So there's a lot to be said about that, which I can get into another time. But what I respect and love so much about Tim Storms is that he has so much control in a vocal technique called chest fry, which is a technique, it's my strongest extended technique as well. Extended technique is a vocal technique you use to sing lower than your natural chest range. If you just sing a scale down, at some point that registration in your voice will end and you'll have to dip into what's called a vocal fry. And a chest fry is basically just a very well breath-supported, reinforced, you're still getting good vocal fold closure, you're getting good resonance and power behind it. You're maintaining good power in your vocal fry when usually it just gets like really crackly and weak for most people. Tim Storms has maybe the best chest fry in the world, and he demonstrates it in this song, which I have seen. I remember watching this when it ever came out about 1.5 years ago. But I'm excited to dive back in and see what he does with these absolutely cavernous low notes. I've got my piano here. The whole song is really a pit viper moment because he's just in like the first octave and 0 octave in his chest fry. But let's go ahead and dive into Tim Storms singing the Lonesome Road. And it's titled Man with the World's Lowest Voice. This, of course, I mean, you hear people with lower chest range voices, like if you think of like Glenn Miller or Eric Holloway, or, you know, someone like a J.D. Sumner. Like, their voices are definitely lower than Tim's, but Tim is able to control this chest fry lower than all of those guys can sing. So he has the title of the world's lowest voice. A hot debate in the bass singing community, as always. But here we go. Let's check out Tim Storms.
I gotta walk. Got to lonesome road.
E1. I mean, just so, okay, so something about Tim, if you hear him in like interviews and stuff, he's actually very soft-spoken. He does not have a powerful voice. And so if you hear him singing off mic, it's not a big, loud, fill a cathedral kind of sound like you would hear in the chest voice of a Glenn Miller. But again, what's so amazing about him is that it's just so well controlled, and he has such a smooth blend from his chest into his chest fry that you almost can't even tell where the technique starts, which is the whole goal of developing a chest fry, especially because it does naturally extend from your chest range. But any subharmonic technique, any kind of extended technique, you want it to be a smooth switch from your chest into that voice so it remains sounding natural. And the way Tim just descends down into this E1 chest fry, it's just so smooth. And another thing about chest fry is that it often, the pitch is very wavery. it moves around a lot because it's not, the vocal folds aren't operating the same way they do in a natural chest voice. And so it's very hard to keep a consistent pitch. And Tim Storms is just like on the money, just like a perfect, consistent straight tone pitch down there. It's really, really remarkable. I mean, we're already going to give it to him. We're already going to give it to him on this one. Excuse me, I also got sick again last week, so I'm still suffering from some lovely post-nasal drip. Just the worst.
I gotta walk. Got to walk. Lonesome road. Road. It's just insane. Now, of course, Tim's is bass boosted like crazy, so you're getting way more of this like subwoofer action than you would normally get if you hear, or more than you probably just heard me do there. Because there's not that much bass frequency in Chest Fry, actually. There's more higher harmonic content. So to make it sound really bassy and subwoofery like this, you do have to boost the frequencies a ton. So I'm sure there's a ton of EQing and compression going on to make that happen. Okay, now we're going to listen to this E1 one more time, and then we're going to keep moving forward. Lonesome road. Gotta walk. Got to walk. Lonesome road. Lonesome road. I've got to So he does that, and like he starts it in chest voice, and then at some point it just smoothly transitions into this really nice chest fry down there. Down to an E1. So he's sitting a lot of E1s so far. The lowest E on the piano. Again, so his world record, if you take that E1 and then go like 7.5 more octaves down from this note, that's what you get for his world record. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But that's what Guinness Book of World Records says, so we'll take their word for it here. But it is a remarkable claim. Anyway, and then it's nice, he has a nice comfortable mid-range too. Again, because it's an extended technique and he's not really blasting these super low notes in chest voice. That means he actually does have access to a mid and higher range, because that's really more where his voice sits. He's a low bass for sure. He is a low bass, but he's not like a completely freakish low bass in his chest range. That's when his chest fry comes in. Truly, but the thing I'm going to keep hammering home is just the control he has in this technique that is notoriously hard to control. Again, E1. Lonesome road. Walk that lonesome road. And he'll go with me. He'll go with me. Through the valley. And over mountains high. If I stumble. If I falter. The Lord. So he's definitely hitting some like B1s in chest. I don't know where his chest range ends. I would guess around a G or so, probably like a G1. So again, he's a very low bass. There's no question about that. But he's got a really, I really like this. I haven't heard him sing much outside. I mean, he sings mostly like gospel stuff. He made his name singing low bass stuff in gospel quartets, I believe. Gospel music has a ton of crazy low basses, by the way. But he has a very nice voice. You can tell his voice, because of the gospel background, he's very good at blending. You know, he's not throwing in a bunch of vibrato. He's trying to keep the same color and timbre in his voice, keeping a very straight tone. And this is the kind of thing that would blend really well in a group setting, in a choral setting, in a quartet setting, in an a cappella setting. And in this case, he is blending it sort of with these background voices. Now, I guess whatever group he was in at the time probably tracked those. And so you can just tell he has a lot of experience blending and tuning. And of course, they could have done, I'm sure they did some fine tuning to the tuning later, because it's very, very difficult, even for the best singers in the world, to sing perfectly in tune in a studio setting, because it's so removed from nature and how we're used to processing sound. I often sing just a little bit flat in a lot of my studio recordings, and then tune them up. And this is, all groups do this. Every group, voice play, pentatonics, home free, every voice is tuned to be perfectly in tune for the studio recordings you hear, and they wouldn't have been that in tune when recorded. That's just a part of the process of like this modern a cappella music, or modern music of any kind. It's really all tuned, unless it's intentionally trying to be a super raw sound. But anyway, you can tell Tim is a master of blend and control and pitch. And it's really really wonderful. A lot of people actually rag on Tim Storms because of this world record, which is so absurd. But he really is an immense talent in the bass singing community, and it's showcased here for 3 minutes and 32 seconds, start to finish.
Will be my guy.
I've got to walk. That lonesome road.
Lonesome road.
I've got to walk.
Walk.
That lonesome road.
It's just so much control in his chest fry. It's so clean. Like when you get down that low, as you probably heard in my example earlier, it gets more and more difficult to hear clear pitch. And with him, I mean, it's just do 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 do. You just hear that perfectly, no problem. And it's hard to say how much EQ and compression is assisting with the thickness, but it's a very thick sound down there. It of course wouldn't be that much off mic, like I mentioned earlier, but it still has enough heft to, there is enough bass frequency there to where you can boost something. If there's nothing there, then boosting just makes it sound wonky. So there is definitely a lot of bass content that's being boosted, and it makes for this just crazy, this glorious thick chest fry.
That lonesome road.
Lonesome road. He'll go with me through the valley.
So that was like, he's so in tune. And it's really hard to tell when it gets down that low, like half steps. A half step between like, which I think is what he just did there. He's saying an E1, then an F1 or something like that to blend, because you can tell the harmonies are changing above him to one of those crazy like barbershop chords that has a bunch of wild notes in it. But he's saying, to sing like an E1 and then an F1 like right next to it, and to be able to tell the difference, that takes so much control. And it's just highlighting his immense control he has down there. Yeah, F1, E1 to F1.
And over mountains high. If I stumble,
If I stumble, if I falter,
Gosh.
the Lord will be my guide.
I've got
Oh, high. And the man has has some control in terms of riffing too, which is unusual for a very low bass to have that kind of fine tuning control for coloratura, which you'd call it an opera, or riffing, or doing runs is another word for it. Let's go back and hear that again. That was really nice. The one thing I'll critique about his approach to singing overall is he does a ton of jaw and mouth movement to I guess help him find the pitch and kind of lock it in. You see singers do that a lot on doing runs and stuff. I'll watch to see if he does it on his run, but just overall it's like Lonesome Road, and he does just like a lot when really you don't have to do much because the tongue really is what's controlling the vowel pretty much entirely. Mouth shape does contribute, but the tongue does far more. So really, when you get more advanced as a singer, especially in operatic technique, you learn to move your mouth less and less and just like trust the support and trust how it's all anchored here, and then let your tongue do the work for you so you're not shifting your mouth all over the place. So that's one critique I'll throw at him. It's just a little too much kind of angular mouth and jaw movement to find pitch or to make something accurate. But let's check out this run again, because that was sweet.
If I fall,
If I stumble, if I falter, the Lord will be my guide.
I've got to walk that lonesome road. I've got to walk.
So he went below an E1. I don't know how much lower. D? A D1, I think? Like a C1 or D1. B0 chest fry. Hello. Yes, and just, again, so much control. Like, you can clearly hear that it's a B0 and it doesn't waver from B0. Now, another thing about chest fry that's worth mentioning is I mentioned tuning earlier. Chest fry, any kind of vocal fry, is very, very difficult to tune in an audio engineering standpoint, because of the nature of the production of the sound. So if you're singing a subharmonic, the software can figure out what note that is very clearly, because the subharmonic is precisely 1 octave lower than your chest voice. The chest fry is this kind of weird fabrication of air and pitch. And so software often gets super confused about it. So you really can't tune it very well. It sounds very wonky and distorted when you tune it. So you can get away with that in like if you're singing chest fry in like an a cappella cover and you're singing a super low note or whatnot, you can tune it and you won't be able to hear all the wonkiness if it's masked in a group setting. Right here, if he was tuning that B0, it would be so janky and obvious that it had been tuned. And so it's not. So you can tell he just nailed that B0 right on it. You can tell it's that note immediately and just maintains perfectly consistent pitch the whole way. I mean, that is just truly the best. This is just the best example of chest fry there is honestly this cover. Let's give him his rightfully earned pit fibers on that B0. You can tell the pitch wavers ever so slightly, but I mean, it is remarkably... let's see. Let's try it. Hey, that's pretty good. Let's try it. Let me get closer to the mic. I will take that. The chest fry actually feels... I was actually recording a bunch of stuff earlier for an upcoming cover with the Bass Gang that will be coming out next summer. And I have written in like D flat ones and E flat ones and stuff like that. So my chest fry is nice and warmed up from that session I did earlier. Okay, guys, that was Tim Storms, bass vocalist. Truly, probably the best example of chest fry you can possibly hear. Now, again, what I said earlier, he doesn't have a ton of actual power there in terms of volume, in terms of like real sound energy. So it wouldn't be an impressive thing. I mean, it'd be impressive because of the depth, but it wouldn't be a big sound in a live setting. So he really thrives in this kind of studio setting where he doesn't need much volume, but you can hear the amount of clarity and control from, I mean, all the way down to B0 and lower. I mean, he has such a fine grasp on how to control that vocal technique. So he's the Guinness Book of World Records for the world's lowest voice. It's a hot debate in the bassing community, but I think he deserves so much credit for his ability to control his voice, to control the chest fry. The sheer depth he can get, whether or not you want to buy into the world record or not, is remarkable. And he's a remarkable singer. I have a lot of respect for him as someone who uses chest fry as my primary extended technique. A lot of respect for what this man does, and it's just such a great example of it here. So guys, thank you. Please like the video, please subscribe, please donate to my Patreon. Get a lot of behind the scenes. There's gonna be a lot of behind the scenes content for May the Bass Be With You Volume 2 and other very exciting projects I have. So guys, thank you for the support. This is a lot of fun for me, checking out Tim Storms, and I'll see you next time.